I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm Coach Margaret.
And today we're going to be talking about, was our love actually real?
After the breakup.
Yeah. A very common thought, a very common theme that we hear after our breakups, right?
Did he ever love me at all?
Yeah. Did they really love me? I don't understand, because all of their behavior now is so different. It makes me question that whatever we had before was real.
Was it real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that today, because I know what that feels like, and you really can question the last 6 months, year, or however many years you've been with this person and your life, if it was like a lie, or if it was just like,
Yeah.
I don't even understand what happened. How did this happen if somebody loved me?
Yep.
So I got a quick email that said, "Hi Craig, I wanted to thank you for all the great content. I'm new to your channel as I broke up with my boyfriend a few months ago. I learned so much, but I have so many questions. I honestly find myself questioning if my boyfriend really loved me all along. Do you think you could cover this in a video for us?" Well, I thought that was a good idea,
great.
good suggestion.
Very helpful.
And so, it's so confusing when you're going through a situation like this. And I'm going to look at some of the different aspects that I was thinking about on why we really wondered if our love was real. Now, first of all, I just want to say, was your love real? In most cases,
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
There are some times where maybe you weren't picking up certain things, but for the most part, and for most of you out there, yes, it was real. Okay? So, here are some of the different factors that I think you got to look at. Obviously, the fact that it ended. Your relationship is over. They ended the relationship. In many of the cases, the other person did it. And you start to think like, how could they break up with me if they love me? It doesn't add up, right?
It doesn't quite add up.
Like, if I love this person, then I couldn't break up with them. But that's simply not true.
No, it's not that simple.
There are many situations where you can love somebody but not continue the relationship.
Yes.
If the relationship is unhealthy, if you've been unhappy for an extended amount of time and you don't think it's going to change, or you just have been feeling so disconnected from somebody.
Well, there are some problems that you can't solve. Family problems, financial problems. Sometimes there are problems you just can't solve.
Yeah, that you have no power in.
Right.
Yeah. But just because they ended it does not mean that the love they have for you isn't real.
No.
I could think of a couple girls that I have broken up with in my life that I absolutely did love.
Yes.
But I couldn't continue the relationship. I had exhausted myself. They had not changed in areas that I needed them to change to make the relationship healthy or working. And yeah, I really cared about them. And, I still do, and it's been many years, but I just couldn't continue. Right?
Right.
So, one of the things that I think people think quickly is, how can love change this quickly? It can. It really can.
And it does. And we see that day in and day out.
And I think the way you want to look at it is, yes, it can change that quickly, because the desire to be with someone can change that quickly. Okay? It's not necessarily that the love is just gone, right? Usually if that happens, it's been a long time in the making, right?
Right.
But the desire to be in that relationship can change quickly.
Yes, it can.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
sometimes new people will come along in their life, right? And
Yes.
all of a sudden, they're starting to look at these other options, which is why I always tell you guys, you always want to be somebody's best option, right?
Yeah.
And the more you work on yourself and the more that you grow, the more likely you're going to be somebody's best option, and they won't look at other options, okay? All right. Now, one of the other big issues that comes up after a breakup is new information about your partner. And this happens a lot, right?
Yes, it does.
And a lot of times we hear surprising information that shocks us, right? Okay, sometimes secrets will come out or lies. Maybe your partner has been lying to you for the last couple of months and they've been talking to somebody else, or lying about where they've been or what they've been doing, or they have contacted somebody else that they're interested in. They're saying, oh, it's just a friend. So sometimes things come out where they've kept something from you, and now it just makes you feel like, well, this whole thing must be a sham.
Must have been a sham, right? He was seeing someone else for the last 3 months. I didn't know it. Right.
Now, another thing that's going to get you to question if the love was real is how your partner behaves in the breakup, right? Because oftentimes they can get so cold, they can shut you out, they can ignore you, and if you push them, they can get mean and nasty or threaten restraining
and we hear that
orders.
all the time. All of a sudden, he or she seemed to go cold. Yeah.
It happens almost all the time.
All the time.
Right? Sometimes people will tolerate it for a little bit and they'll try to be supportive and compassionate towards you, but if it gets to be too much, they just shut down and they're like, all right, I can't deal with this.
Right.
Okay? So that gets you to question it.
Yep.
Now, sometimes your ex will say things out of anger, things that they've been holding in for a long time that you weren't aware of. Maybe they were frustrated about some aspects of your personality, or your inability to keep a job, or your family interfering in the relationship.
That's a big one. Okay?
And so when you hear all these things and you're like, this is the first time I'm hearing about it, it makes you question, was this real? Because how did I not know this was going on with my partner that whole time?
Right. And there may not have been red flags, you may not have seen them, but we've certainly learned that total shock makes matters worse. If you're totally shocked, had no idea anything was wrong, then you're more blown away.
Yeah, and you're really thinking, how did I not know this?
How did I not know
And
this?
so it makes you question reality.
Yeah.
What have I been living in?
Right.
This is the relationship I thought I had, and this whole secret was going on, or issue was going on, or these feelings my ex had for a long time were going on. I didn't even know it.
Right.
Okay, another big one I see is when your ex starts dating somebody new right away.
Oh, right. That is most distressing. He forgot about me that fast. She forgot about me in 5 minutes. Within 2 weeks, she was seeing somebody else.
Yep. And sometimes it's like a week later,
Right.
And then you're like seeing pictures on social media with this new person, and that makes you think, well, wait a minute, if they've moved on this quickly, then it wasn't real. Well, not necessarily. Because there's a good chance your ex had been planning to break up with you for a long time. You had no idea, and they were looking for somebody else. And insecure people tend to do this more than secure people.
Because they don't want to risk being alone, only briefly. I've worked with many people who couldn't get away from a relationship until they had another one lined up.
Yep.
Yep.
It happens all
the time.
As soon as they think that this new option might work,
Right.
they're willing to risk it.
Yeah.
Right? Because
But not until they have an option.
Yeah, that happens a lot. And I've said this before, and I really like the saying, a man never throws away his only pair of shoes.
Yes, everyone likes that. I have it quoted to me sometimes.
Yeah, and it's not true in every case, of course, but it's just something to think about when you're assessing the situation, right? Because insecure people will often use you as an object, right?
Well, what does that mean?
Well, why don't you tell people that?
If you're using someone as an object, you're using them to somehow make you feel good or do something for you, and you're not seeing them as a real person with feelings and worth and empathy and all those good things. And sometimes we objectify people without meaning to, but we do it. In other words, you help me with this, this, and this, so I'm going to keep you in my life. But I'm really not terribly concerned about your feelings or your well-being. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you got to kind of try and take a step back and look at all of the pieces of the puzzle, which is very difficult to do when you're so anxious and you're so overwhelmed with the intense feelings.
And shocked. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, just because, these things come up after a breakup doesn't mean that love wasn't real.
No, it doesn't mean that. And it's so easy to conclude that.
Yeah.
And, just 2 weeks ago, he had told me I was the best thing that ever happened to him. And now he breaks up with me like I had no feelings at all.
Yeah. I mean, I can think of the situation with the Applebee's girl. She told me she loved me the week of the breakup.
Did she?
Yeah.
The week of the breakup.
Yeah.
Now, how confusing is that?
Pretty confusing.
Pretty confusing.
Does it mean that she didn't love me because she ended the relationship? No.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
And if it did, it would be so much easier, wouldn't it?
I guess it would.
Yeah.
In a sense, but in another sense, you'd be thinking to yourself, well, how am I missing all these signals in my life?
Yeah.
So, but in the sense of moving on,
Yeah.
it would probably be easier, right? So, we did a video maybe about a month ago where we were talking about some of the signs of real love.
Yes.
And so I thought we'd review it real quick.
Good.
Okay? So you can really, think about it, right? Okay, were these signs present in your relationship, right? Did your experience with that partner go beyond just your feelings? Was there something really in place there?
Right. Did it feel like there was some kind of a commitment, some kind of a connection, not a magical one, but a real life one?
Like an effort.
Yeah.
Right?
Like an
Not
effort,
just,
yeah.
oh, I'm crazy over you, you're crazy over me.
Yeah. But, you need this, I'll inconvenience myself to make sure you get it, or real concern for each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. Another one is if you had similar life goals with that person. If you were together and maybe talked about, oh, we're going to get engaged next year, or we're going to have kids in a few years, or we're going to move here, or we're going to do this and start a business. Those are all some life goals that you would have that you would be discussing with somebody when it's more, solid.
You were just earlier talking to me about a relationship where a woman was very excited about going to professional school, and her boyfriend just wanted to party.
Yeah.
And, you could see it wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
Right. So they didn't have those things in common, at least short term.
And the thing in that situation was that, she was working very hard to get into the school because it was such a difficult program to get into, that she was almost obsessively trying to get into that program and having to put all of the other aspects of her life aside.
Right.
And he just didn't understand that.
Yeah.
He wanted to go out and drink and party, and he got mad at her for not wanting to do that.
Right.
Well, you have to understand that your partner has ambition.
Right, and you've got to support it if it's going to work.
At least in a reasonable way.
Yes.
Okay. Were there similar core values with this person? Did you guys have the same values about what you want out of your life together? If one person is just wanting to smoke weed all day and the other one wants to have a family and, have a loving commitment, it's completely different things. If, the weed is the only thing they care about and they neglect family events, or they can't hold down a job, or, you know what I mean?
They fall asleep in the middle of dinner. Right.
Yeah. Here's another one to look at. You aren't on the rebound, okay? If one of you is getting with somebody that was on the rebound, there's a good chance that they're still hung up on that other person.
Yes, absolutely, and don't forget it.
And, sometimes it'll come out months later. Yeah.
So and so was on the rebound. Oh, or I've had several people ask me later, do you think this relationship was a rebound? And it's sometimes yes and sometimes no.
Yeah.
But if you're on the rebound, yeah, or your partner, you may not see things clearly.
Yeah. Because exes will pop back up in their life. I've had that happen. As a matter of fact, I think this past week or it was last week, exes were coming back in the picture, and because it was never really resolved, they went back to their ex. And they cheated on the partner with an ex that it wasn't resolved.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that happens.
So at least when you're dating somebody new, keep this in mind. You need to know the story of that last ex and dig a little bit deeper to make sure, because they'll, maybe kind of brush over it real quick so you don't harp on it, but you got to get the information, because if they're still hung up, you're going to be in trouble.
And I hear all the time, I'll say, well, did you ask so-and-so this? Well, no, I didn't want to appear or be nosy. Be nosy. If you're getting into a relationship with someone, that's a very important thing.
Yeah.
And it's easy to be hurt. So, offer to give up information back. Do whatever you have to do, but be nosy.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay to not get so nosy when you're very casual in the beginning.
Yes.
Just enjoying each other's company. But if you're going to get to a commitment, you better get nosy.
Yeah, you need to know absolutely everything they'll tell you. Yeah.
And the last one I wanted to talk about, is feeling good and accepted about yourself.
Right.
So if you're in a place where you feel good about yourself, you're likelier to be in a healthier situation. In other words, if you're always anxious of being alone, you might be staying with that person because you're using them as an object, because you're terrified of being alone. So instead of leaving when things get unhealthy, you stay for long periods of time. And your partner could be doing this too, or your ex.
But you can be in a relationship with somebody who subtly puts you down and not quite get it. It can be under the radar. So I think what we're saying here is you have to feel good about yourself in the relationship. In other words, if this person makes you question your self-worth, things about yourself, parts of yourself, that's probably over the long haul not going to work.
Yeah.
So it's very important to look at your own feelings.
Absolutely.
Right.
And how that person consistently makes you feel.
Yes. And that can be a subtle one. I never feel quite good enough when I'm with her. I never feel quite good enough when I'm with him. What does he do to make you feel that way? Well, I don't know. But pay attention to it.
Absolutely. So looking at all of these aspects that we just gave, these 5, can maybe give you a little bit of an idea, and you can look at your situation and say, you know what? My love really was real. We did match up in a lot of these different areas.
Yes.
For the most part, the love was real.
Yeah.
For most of you.
For most of you, yes. And one of the things we've come across often is that people sometimes will break up with a partner they do care about because they're protecting them from something. They may have a problem they haven't felt okay to reveal. They may feel they have financial problems that they don't want to lay on somebody else, or complicated family problems. But there are breakups that are done to protect you sometimes also.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
But overall, for the most part,
yes,
you guys can relax. Even though these things may have happened after the breakup and things were not so good and they didn't treat you so good afterwards, or they lined somebody else up, it doesn't mean that what they had with you all that time wasn't real.
Right.
And if the love was real, there's a very good chance that at some point they will miss you enough to reach out and re-explore the idea of getting back together.
Absolutely, because it's guaranteed they will think about it and wonder about it also.
Absolutely.
But can they sound cold while doing the breakup? You betcha.
Very.
And if you're doing the breakup, it's not easy for you either, remember, if you're the breaker-upper. And so you're going to distance to protect your own feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot to think about. So, of course, if you want to get our help personally, you can go to my website, askcraig.net, sign up for the coaching option that works best for you. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Margaret is also available for Skype coaching.
I am, and I would love to hear from you.
But remember to subscribe to the channel. That's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth,
I'm Coach Margaret.
and we will talk with you soon.